Neid asked loudly, his tone full of challenge. Are you looking down on the Magic Academy? Who allowed you to set foot in here? Canis, a senior, simply replied, I am a senior. Neid exclaimed in surprise, huh? Canis continued, glancing at Shirone. You too? I heard you're in the 5th grade. Canis smiled and replied, I'm in 4th grade. Then Canis approached, leaned down, and said with a confident tone, I am your senior. Neid couldn't believe his ears and said through gritted teeth, you're lying. Neid remembers the strict teachers in the months of being placed in the 5th grade class from the moment he enrolled. Canis remained calm and explained, isn't it obvious? We've been disciples of a great mage for 10 years. Neid still wouldn't concede, even though his voice was a little quieter. Even so, you still lost to Shirone. Canis turned to Arin and said, we finished the basics a long time ago. Neid suddenly spoke with a somewhat sarcastic tone. By the way, weren't your scores pretty bad? Canis chuckled. Then he said, to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. Canis ground his teeth. One fellow is just an outward flatterer, and the other only practices at a mediocre level. The angry Canis said, I can't believe I have to suffer fools like you. Canis, standing in front of the academy's main gate, said, well, good luck. Turning to Arin, he added, I'm ready to treat my cute juniors well. Canis burst out laughing in the face of Shirone, Neid, and Eruki's silence. Shirone, Eruki, and Neid stood frozen in place on the tree-lined road. Shirone gritted her teeth and said, our day off is canceled. Neid nodded, looking annoyed. Yes. Eruki asked, bewildered, why would he do that? Neid replied irritably, I would rather give up magic than have seniors like them. Shirone gazed into the distance, her eyes firm. Those people will enroll starting next semester. No matter what, next semester. Shirone lifted her head and declared loudly, we will graduate. Can we double our score in this remaining month? Shirone looked at the hourglass and said softly, the first thing we need to do is use our time well. The hourglass ticked, tick, tick. Shirone continued, we will divide each hour into 10-minute segments. Shirone explained to Neid and Eruki as they looked at the chart together. With this, we will be able to minimize wasted time. Shirone added, and we will be able to maintain a high level of focus. Shirone decided, next, we will form a study group. Shirone smiled. Fortunately, the subjects that the three of us are good at don't overlap. Shirone concluded, that means we'll be able to complement each other's weaknesses. Shirone said seriously, however, I've learned that. Eruki exclaimed excitedly, it's done. Hearing that, Shirone tilted her head slightly and replied, it's done? Let me see. Afterwards, Eruki leaned back in his chair and whistled smugly. Meanwhile, Shirone stared wide-eyed at the paper, exclaiming, what is this? Turns out the paper read, asterisk. Use quotations to answer the following questions. If you eat spaghetti, I'll eat spaghetti too. Asterisk, Shirone said angrily. What's the point of this? How can this express the dark light particles? Eruki frowned and replied, why not? You eat spaghetti, I eat spaghetti. That's perfect. Eruki elaborated. It expresses the independence of the subjects without any special expressions. Shirone questioned, huh? Really? Suddenly remembering something, he muttered, the reason we're bad at specific subjects isn't because we're lazy, but because we're just not compatible with them. After that, Shirone stood up abruptly, waving her hand in protest. That's wrong. Language isn't mathematics. It's not a tool for proof. Eruki wouldn't back down either, shouting, I don't know anything about that. Math is the best. Shirone looked at Eruki and asked in a low voice, so, you're not planning on graduating? Hearing that, Eruki flinched slightly, and then tears welled up in her eyes. No, Eruki screamed. Eruki slammed his hand on the table, exclaiming in frustration, damn it. Shirone sat across from me and said sternly, third, we're going to put our academic achievements on hold. Then he continued, his tone resolute, and focus solely on studying to graduate. Shirone gritted her teeth, her eyes showing clear dissatisfaction. We absolutely cannot accept becoming subordinates of Canis. Neid frowned, looking worried. My problem is the practical exam tomorrow. I'm the worst at that. Neid mumbled dismissively, whatever. Neid reassured himself, I'll be fine as long as I make it into the top 10. Suddenly, a large screen displayed the words, frequency, 87 beats. A wave of shock rippled through the students, and one person exclaimed, whoa. Neid gritted his teeth, trying his best. Neid? How could he do that? Another person exclaimed, after playing with Shirone and Eruki all this time, he suddenly improved drastically. The students continued to discuss Neid's outstanding abilities. With this ability, he'll definitely be able to achieve a high rank. Meanwhile, Neid was deeply focused. You know, lately Eruki hasn't been coming to class. Hearing that, someone exclaimed in surprise, what? The leaderboard displayed the results. First place, Neid, 173 beats. Second place, Claire, 158 beats. Third place, Brody, 144 beats. Fourth place, Jamie, 136 beats. 10th place, Thomas, 120 beats. 6th place, Mahira, Seth beats. Neid breathed a sigh of relief, raised his hand to wipe away sweat. Phew, I did it. Etella stood below and said with a smile, well done, Neid. Neid stood there, his gaze fixed resolutely ahead. Then he mumbled something to himself that probably only he understood. From below the high platform, everyone exclaimed in unison in astonishment. The leaderboard showed Eruki in first place with a score of 210 beats, followed by Neid in second with 173 beats, and Claire in third with 144 beats. Eruki stood on the high platform, grinning broadly. An angry voice from the crowd shouted, Eruki, you must have used some kind of formula again, right? Another person snapped irritably, can't you ever do things the normal way, you jerk? Boo, the jeers erupted from the crowd. Another man, arms crossed and looking indifferent, said, what's all the fuss about those scores? That was Canis, standing high above, looking down and scornfully saying, the 5th grade is truly pathetic. Etella stood with two of her friends and said, you two be quiet and tour the school quietly. Canis continued, oh, meridian exercises? We're sick of those. Arin and another person were walking down the road and she said, yes, the master told us we have to obtain it at all costs. Eruki stared blankly downwards and stammered, you people. Arin said, her violet eyes gleaming with determination, so that we can quickly and easily enter the spiritual realm. We have been constantly practicing, expanding, and contracting. Canis looked at his sister, asking with a probing tone, 210? Well, do you think you can beat that? Arin glanced at her brother and said tersely, are you kidding me? Meanwhile, Mark stood in front of the screen, grumbling with annoyance. Tusk, look at them. Another person chimed in, their voice full of confidence. We have a secret weapon here too, you know. Standing on the high platform, Shirone took firm steps, the sound of thud, thud, echoing powerfully beneath his feet. Below, cheers rang out. Go, Shirone, crush them this time. The moment Shirone appeared, the Canis brothers immediately looked up. Shirone stood before the gate, a determined look in her eyes, facing forward. The green light turned on. Shirone suddenly stopped. Then a blue energy enveloped him and those around him. What is this? All the students in the hall exclaimed in horror. Another person panicked as well. What the hell is going on? A notification popped up. 120 targets. 120 targets in just 10 seconds? 12 targets in a second? Shirone stood there, her body glowing brilliantly. Canis and Arin sat on the steps, watching in silence. Arin exclaimed in astonishment. No way. Her younger sister Arin continued worriedly, that will blow his mind. Etella stood nearby thoughtfully. It seems it was very strong to begin with. Etella looked at Shirone, recalling Vajrayana, diamond body. Etella continued, that's probably a trait he picked up when he came back from the undying function. Etella reminisced, back then, all the teachers thought that Shirone, a convergence magician, would develop into a defensive mage. Etella mused, however, his powerful durability has transformed into a solid foundation that allows him to endure the immortal function. Finally, Etella exclaimed in astonishment, this child's potential is immense. Shirone was still standing there with an incredibly powerful aura of spiritual energy. From afar, streaks of bright red light stretched across the signal lights. Below, a crowd of students was buzzing with discussion. A large screen displayed the results, with Shirone in the lead at 410 beats. Eruki exclaimed in astonishment, unbelievable. Another student's eyes widened. Shirone, is that strong? Canis stood in a hidden place, looking annoyed. Arin stood beside, marveling, that kid is truly amazing. Canis snorted coldly, at the very least, he needs to be that good to be worthy of you. Then Canis turned to Arin and said, let's go, Arin. We've seen everything we needed to see. In another corner, a male student exclaimed excitedly, Nana is an apprentice of an Archmage and she's still lost to him. Shirone stood in the middle of the crowd with a defiant look in her eyes. Taking the cue, the students swarmed forward, yelling, "You dare look down on the 5th grade of the Magic Academy. Don't mess with us." In the previous battle, Canis secretly believed his defeat was due to innate disadvantages, but then Canis suddenly realized it was a mistake. Canis mused, if we were to compete using pure strength right now, I couldn't guarantee a victory. To become the best, Canis gritted his teeth and said, his eyes fixed resolutely on Shirone and the others, I will defeat you all first.